I just took all these over the top photos with me and Pickles with Kirsty as the photographer. And they turned out so awesome. And so that was really wonderful too, to sort of have that in my hand and have those pictures and go, okay, I don't feel strong now, but that is me. This isn't me right now, going through, in the middle of the hardest times, feeling so sick and weak and, can't even think properly. I had those visuals of like, no, that's who I am. That's who God created me to be. This is just what I'm going through right now. This isn't who I am.
Bring them in on the rail, let it jog, please. On the rail, let it jog.
You and I have talked before, kind of, on the phone for My Millennial Cowgirl magazine. So we just thought it would be really cool to get you into an interview for our new podcast. I just love everything about your story and like you becoming the CEO of Hobby Horse. So I guess to get started, just kind of give us a rundown about who you are, what you like to do, sort of what you're doing these days. And then, we'll get into the hobby horse part naturally, I think.
Okay. So Kristin Titov, CEO of Hobby Horse Clothing. I also compete in NRHA events as a non-pro. And now I'm starting to get into ranch riding since my reiner got injured and can't do reining anymore. So starting to learn how to ranch ride. But I do have a fraternity horse this year I'm really excited about. And so I am also on the board of the Graceful Warrior Project. It's a nonprofit focused on empowering women around the world. Oh, I also, besides Hobby Horse, I also co-own Kristin Tack with my barn bestie, Kim Friedman. We have a patent on actually I have right here, a little cell phone clip that you can clip onto your boot. So when you ride, you can just store it right in your phone, right in your boot. And you don't lose it and you don't have to worry about it falling out your pocket or getting in the way.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I didn't realize you guys had created a patent for that. How did that, was it just like a idea that sparked one day? Like just thinking about how you could hold your phone, or how did that come about?
Oh my gosh, the amount of work that has gone into this little thing. It started when we were actually competing. We both ride with the same trainer, Patrick Flaherty, and we were at Sun Circuit. And we went out to dinner after we had a particularly great day. So we went out to celebrate. And when Kim went to go pay, she couldn't find her wallet. And so I was like, don't worry about it. I got it. So I can't find my wallet. Our wallets were stolen out of our purses, out of the tack room.
Oh, no.
So that kind of sparked this okay, we need a better plan. So we came out with the idea of a boot wallet, but boy, is that hard to figure out how to get manufactured. Between the clip was supposed to be metal, and then with the wallet and integrating them both, it was like years to not have anything. So we actually have a patent on that as well. But people kept saying, oh, make a cell phone case, make a cell phone case. And we were like, it's so hard because cell phones change every year. There's all these different brands. Doing a case is going to be really hard. And then we just kind of got the idea of it doesn't have to be a case. It could just stick on. And one thing led to the next. That actually went pretty easy. And so I think it's been around for a couple of years now.
Interesting. It is something that we always need. I hate carrying my cell phone in my pocket because I'm just afraid I'm going to drop it. So I never have my phone. Right. But then, if you ever need your phone, it's not on you. Okay, cool.
Exactly.
So, growing up, then you showed horses then too, right? Before you.
Yep. Yeah.
That's what I think I remember a little bit because you would go to Hobby Horse, right? To get your clothes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My first equitation suit when I was 7 was actually, or 8, regardless, was made by Hobby Horse. And back then they just did custom work. So I would go there and sit on, they had this big rocking horse, like life-size giant rocking horse. And I'd sit on it and Susie would measure me for my equitation suit, and Tahiti teal was my, back then it was all about the bright colors.
Oh, yeah.
And and then I started modeling for Hobby Horse through like junior high school, and a little bit into college, and sort of just stayed in contact with Susie. And then I made a pretty significant career change. I was the head of HR for a few different retail organizations. And then I stepped out of that and went into a startup position for a tech startup. And then I got laid off from that. And I was like, well, now what? I don't really want to go back into HR. I just want to show horses. Like, I just want to be around horses. I want to play with sparkles. And when this opportunity came up with Hobby Horse, it just seemed like the perfect fit, because I have always loved fashion. I've been in the horse industry as long as I can remember. Showing horses I'm more comfortable in my show clothes than I am any other outfit. So it just felt like the right fit. And having that background in HR, you really get to understand the whole business. Because in human resources, like, my job would be working with the other executives to help them figure out how to leverage people to move their portion of the business forward. So I kind of got this overview working in these different retail organizations and working with different executives of, the overall business perspective. So stepping into Hobby Horse, I was able to use all of the learnings I got over all of those years as an HR executive, plus all my learnings understanding this industry, living and breathing the industry, and then add that to my love of fashion. It just seemed just like the right thing.
Yeah. So maybe to back it up just a bit, were your parents involved in the horse industry? I can't quite remember. Or how did your official start with horses go?
Yeah, so my parents weren't involved in horses at all. But I don't know, like, I just assume God put it there, because horse was one of my first words. When we'd be driving in the car, I'd see a horse out the car window, I'd get all excited. If there was a horse toy to be had, that's the one I wanted. So I don't know. It just sort of came organically. And my mom had a friend that she worked with, a coworker that had a horse. And so that, because of my interest was already there, she asked if she could bring me to meet her friend's horse. And we hit it off. And I started doing lead line classes when I was 3. And then for my 6th birthday, I got a year of riding lessons. And for my 7th birthday, I got my first horse.
Do you remember that first horse? Like, everyone just has that story. Was it?
Oh, of course. Yeah. His name was Tornado Chex. His barn name was Tori. And he's this big sorrel gelding with a giant white bulb face and just big, stocky, like, classic quarter horse look. And so I had no idea he was going to be my horse. I didn't know I was getting a horse for my birthday, but we were riding at the time with Debbie McEwen at the Huntington Beach Equestrian Center. And the guys was that she had gotten a new lesson horse and she wanted me to ride it for a little bit and make sure it was safe for lessons. I had no idea my mom had already purchased it. And so on my birthday was supposed to be my last day to ride Tori. And I walk up and to the stall, and there's a sign on the horse's stall door that says Kristin's Tori. And my mom points at the sign. And she's like, your dad made that sign for you. I instantly felt so bad because I was like, doesn't he know it's my last day to ride Tori? And they're like, no, Tori's yours now. He's your horse. And I just couldn't even believe it. We have all these pictures of me sitting on him. There's streamers everywhere. The whole family came out and we had like a little birthday party around his stall.
Oh, that's amazing.
How old were you then?
That was my 7th birthday.
That's cool.
That's like the magic time to have horses. Yeah.
Yes. What surprised you the most about showing horses? Like, what have you learned from all of your years of showing?
I mean, I'm going to answer those questions separately because what's surprised me the most is how everything's different in the show pen. You can practice over and over. Everything's working just fine. And you get in the show pen and suddenly counting to 4 is really hard. And like, there's just, it never feels the same. Nothing's the same in the show pen. You look at it and you're like, yeah, I can do it at home, no problem. Why can't I do it when it matters in the show pen?
Yep.
So that's probably the most surprising is that it all just feels different. It just, something changes magically when you enter the show pen gate. That's probably my most surprising. And then as far as learning, oh my gosh, there's so many. I mean, even as a kid, sort of getting to learn to be a good sport, not only learning to win well, but also to lose well, learning to support your friends and sort of even the basics of how to train that animal and having the consequence fit the crime and having that balance and that responsibility that, you're responsible for this animal. Yeah. And if you don't do what you're supposed to do, they're not going to get what they need.
It's definitely a good lesson in our youth years, for sure. It just builds that character and the responsibility to actually have to go out and do stuff. And yeah.
I would love to know, and I'm sure you were going to ask this as it comes about, but how did Hobby Horse come about for you?
I mean, it started, I'd already had that relationship with Susie from her making my clothing as far back as I can remember. And then modeling and, I'd see her every year and I'd get so excited about the fashion. And when I started transitioning into actually working with Hobby Horses, right after I got laid off from the startup, I was actually at the Derby, at the NRHA Derby in Oklahoma City. And I sort of just stepped away from, normally when I am at a horse show, I'm working. Like I come to ride and back to the hotel room and work or find a quiet space at the showgrounds. Like I'm working. Sometimes I would even have to fly back and forth between prelims and finals. And so I never just sort of hang out at the show, or at the time I wasn't. And I had just been laid off. And so here I'm at this horse show, like, now what? Like I've got all this free time. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll start an Instagram feed. I called it raining_style. And I was like, maybe I'll just play, I don't know. I love fashion. I love horse shows. Like, I'll just take pictures of the outfits that I think are the most fabulous. And, people get a way to be recognized, not just for winning, but for putting the effort in and looking great. And so I literally just, some of the people I would know, some people I wouldn't, I'd just walk up and go, hey, I love your outfit. Would you mind if I take a photo for my Instagram? And they always would say, yeah, no problem. So I'd take the photo and then I'd, write what I thought worked about the outfit. And like by the end of the weekend, I had thousands of followers. I don't even know. I didn't have any idea what I was doing or anything. Susie didn't know it was me. She reached out and I'm like, hey, it's Kristin. And she's like, oh my gosh, well, I can't believe you did this. Would you come do it for Hobby Horse? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. I just was having fun at the horse show and I made it up. I'm making things up. I don't really know what I'm doing. And she's like, well, will you come try? So that's when I started consulting with Hobby Horse on the marketing side and working with social media and all that type of thing. And it just happened to be a few months in, it's at a timing where Susie was had some stuff going on and wanted to just step away from the business. And, like I had said before, it just seemed like such a good fit for me and what in that position I was in life and what I wanted to do. So I stepped in.
So what was that like, or how did that conversation go when Susie approached you about handing the reins over to you, or did it kind of come out of left field, or was it, you kind of had an idea, or how did that exactly go down?
It's actually kind of funny because she did it very passively. It's like, hey, I'm looking for someone to take over running the business. Do you have anyone in mind, kind of thing? And I was like, I don't know. I'll think about it. And then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, maybe it's just me. And so I just approached her. I went to market with her, which used to be in Denver. It's now in Dallas, but that's where you markets where you go every year and you show the line. All the dealers come and you show the line and, they place their orders. And we she needed some help at market. And I was like, sure, that sounds fun, And we went up a couple days early and hung out at Greeley Hat Works, which is who makes all of our hats. And Trent did I forget what he calls it, like Hat University or something, where you get to make your own hat from scratch. It was so fun. So we were doing that a couple of days. So we were just spending a bunch of time together in a really relaxed, we're just being creative and making our hats. No pressure really. And so I just kind of brought it up and I was like, well, I know you're looking for someone to take over this business. Like, what if it's me? And so we just talked about it and, we just spent a lot of time talking about it. And then, just from a high level, and she had me, like, I watched her present the line a few times, and then she had me present the line while she watched, and it all went really well. And I got along great with all the dealers. We really have some of the most amazing dealers. So we just sort of kept talking and soon enough got into the numbers and, did the hard part and made it happen.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it just seemed like it was the right move for both of us. So it just felt like a win-win altogether. And, I have so much respect for Susie. And, she started this business basically out of her mom's garage so many years ago and built it up to what it is. So it just seemed like as she's sort of stepping away from horse shows and stepping away from the industry where I'm diving into the industry, it just felt like this perfect transition, handing it over to me to sort of step more in, leaning into more, innovation on the innovation side, really trying to revamp the marketing, trying to do a lot of things a little bit different, but still keeping that core of what makes hobby horse great.
So I'm curious, when you talk about going to market specifically in Dallas, I assume that's not just a horse person type market. It's fashion in its entirety.
It's horse person. It's
it is
Western and English Sales Association market. So it's all horse related, but not all Western, not all horse show. I mean, anything you can imagine related to the horse industry is probably there. It's actually really fun. I didn't present last year. We didn't have a booth. I just went and shopped for hobby horse. Well, and maybe a little for me too. And it's insane. I think it's 10 levels. There's literally thousands of wholesalers presenting because hobby horse is a little bit unique where, yes, we design and manufacture our own clothing, but we also resell. We sell Kimes Ranch. We sell Greeley Hat Works, I already mentioned, Kelly Hurd Jewelry. I mean, the list goes on. So, we're kind of both. So before, when I was presenting, I'd never get to shop because I'd just be booked with appointments and just one after the other. And I'd never get to shop for the business. So in 2020, things changed with COVID. And so they canceled that year. And then the next year I actually had cancer. So I was, doing cancer treatments, chemo and whatnot. And so I couldn't go to market. And we kind of learned a new way of doing market over video and just kind of did it a little bit different, and it was working. So last year I was like, well, it's so expensive to go to market. Maybe I'll just try, making appointments for dinners and lunches and stuff with dealers to have that face-to-face time, not have to get the whole booth and be there the whole time, and then be able to spend some time shopping. And we did get some fun stuff this year that has been added to our website that we're pretty excited about, some of which is already sold out. We got this Yeehaw bag that I was so excited about. I loved it so much. I was so excited. And it sold out within 2 weeks. So we ordered more, but but it's fun because this is stuff I would never have even had access to before, because the whole market I would be presenting and not looking at opportunities.
Yeah. So when does market usually happen, or what time of year is that running? And then
January.
January?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it used to be in Denver. Now it's in Dallas.
Interesting. So on that note, you are a wholesaler for some, right?
Yep.
So is it all of your show jackets that you create, or the shirts, and then you guys make chaps?
Yep.
And okay. Is that all part of like your wholesale list?
Yep. So we wholesale and retail both. All of our show jackets, our basic blouses that you would typically, that are solid colored, frequently you'd maybe wear under a vest or something. And then we also have our hobby sport blouses, which are in all the fun colors and patterns, but are moisture wicking. They don't show any sweat stains. You throw them in the laundry, no dry cleaning necessary. Like they're just easy to wear all day type tops, but in super fun designs. And they're so soft. Like I'll wear it and then I just won't take it off. I'll just wear it the rest of the day, even when I'm done showing, because it's just so comfortable. And then we also have our pants. We have 3 different style of pants, and then in all different colors that match the chaps. And we do get them dyed so the colors are exact matches with the chaps and the pants. And then, yeah, we have our basic level, our kind of entry level chap was the simplicity. And then you sort of step up to the split leather, and those come in chocolate and black. And then from there, you can step up to the ultra suede, which will come in, a bunch of different colors. And then our highest level is our premium garment leather chap. It's super buttery, soft, lovely leather. But it also has a little extra zipper underneath the fringe. And then you can buy all these different color zip-in fringe that you zip in. So the chaps come with the normal black fringe. And then under that zipper, you can zip in purple fringe, silver fringe, gold, whatever is going to complement your outfit. And then you can just zip them out if you don't, so zip it in for trail. And then you're going into horsemanship next. Great. Just zip it right on out for horsemanship. And you don't even have to get off the horse. Easy peasy. So that's one of the concepts I brought to the business, when I stepped in, was that higher level chap. And I did that in a lot of different areas. Same thing. I worked with Trent at Greeley and brought in a premium level hat that is a higher quality material, but it also has this really fun double welt stitch. In tone on tone, it's just maybe a little bit lighter or darker than the actual hat. So it gives this custom look, because that's typically something you'd have to order custom to have on your hat without having to pay custom pricing or custom wait time. It's sort of the best of both worlds, instant gratification for less, but it still has that custom look. And then I also started bringing in saddle pads that I would design specifically to go with the jackets. You can have the most gorgeous jacket in the world, but if you have a saddle pad that clashes with it, all of a sudden it doesn't look gorgeous anymore. It's distracting and takes away from the overall look. So I've started where I'll literally take my fabric, I design the fabric of the jackets, and then I will take my little swatches and I will design the saddle pad so it matches the jacket perfectly. So it's so easy. If the customer loves the jacket, great. Here's the saddle pad that matches. Here's the hat that matches. Here's, it's kind of like Granimals. It's just, here's all the pieces, and you don't have to worry that it's not going to match, because it's literally made to match.
Love that.
I kind of feel like one of the things I like to say is, so when you're showing horses, anything can happen, right? It's a horse and a human. You can't control a whole lot of the things that happen. And sometimes, depending on what you're showing, and there might be like a cow or something. I mean, these are a lot of variables that you cannot control. So, but you can control how you look walking in the pen. So why not look and feel your best as your starting point?
Love that. Yes, exactly that.
How much work did it take for you? Because I think Hobby Horse does a great job of providing clothing to a large amount of people. But of course, when we all step into the show ring, we want to have our little extra pizzazz. So if that's something you kind of added on as far as like your individual customization, like what was that process like for you to develop that and a way to make like ready to wear show clothing, but also be able to customize it towards personalities and whatnot on the back end?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that to start with, that's just what I wanted, So since I'm competing, I'm in this world, like, I want stuff that I want to wear and show in. I want to wear the brand and feel really good about what I'm wearing. And, I'm competing at the World Championships. I'm competing at the futurities and the biggest derbies. Like I'm out there doing it at that top level. And I want clothes that I want to wear. So the other thing is I would see what's out there, and I would see the mistakes that I thought people were making that I could maybe help with. So, like the mismatch pad, you've got you're wearing black and gray and you have this solid brown pad. No, thanks. So like, I can help with that. What if I figure that out for you? 'Cause if fashion's not your thing, I get it. It's not for everyone, but let me make it easy for you. So all you have to do is put these together, because I really think everyone wants to feel good about how they look. Like, why would you not want that? So let's just make an easy button to press to make that happen. And then also, like, so I mentioned my mom helped me get she got me my first horse when I was 7, and my parents were divorced. She didn't have a lot of money. She was a teacher on a single parent teacher. So, we had to figure out ways to make it affordable and make it work. And at times she would literally work at Carl's Jr. at night just to be able to help me finish out the show. Pay for me to finish out a show season. So I super appreciate the expense and, what goes into horse showing. And so I want Hobby Horse to be able to provide things, garments and outfits that people can feel really good about, but also feel good about what they're spending. So that's kind of where my heart in it is. And I've always had a heart for empowering women, and specifically in business and entrepreneurship. And the heart of Hobby Horse is that as well. We want to empower women to look and feel their best in the show arena and beyond. And so I work with a lot of the people I work with have that same heart. Our photographer is Kirsty Marie, and she is an amazing female entrepreneur and obviously such a talent as well. But by partnering with people like that, I think that all kind of infuses into what we do, not only, what from the output, but from the grassroots of it as well.
I love that. On the design aspect of it, are you the majority of what's designing your garments, or do you have like a team that helps you design, or do you have people doing their own thing and then you get to approve, or how does your design process look for Hobby Horse?
It's mostly me. We are a very small business over here. I do the design work and the marketing, sort of the overall vision. And then Holly is the director of operations, and she handles basically the unfun stuff. She thinks what I do isn't fun, but that's ridiculous. What I do is super fun. She does the more, spreadsheety operational kind of stuff, and then works directly with the vendors on like the purchase orders and this sort of thing. And then we do have a consultant that is in LA and will help, be there when the cutters are cutting and help get the stuff from the cutters to the sewers and, sort of manage that production process. And then as far as our website and our, distribution and all of that sort of stuff is outsourced to a company that, I just pay a percentage of the sale, and they handle like all those components that I don't have any expertise in. So I'd rather use people that are experts and then kind of get out of the way. But as far as design work specifically, Hobby Horse already had, patterns in place. So I have done some pattern work, changing some collars, and I'm working on a rail shirt that I'm hoping to release early 23, that I'm kind of taking the sleeves of one of the pearl blouse, and I'm taking the collar of the ebony horsemanship top that we use, but I'm adding a zipper. I'm just doing instead of princess, I'm doing darts because the fabric is kind of striped. So the darts disrupt the stripes less. So, things like that. But for the most part, what I'm doing is I'll go to LA. Sometimes I'll find the fabric and go, this is it. Let's just, make the jacket. But most of the time I have one particular fabric dealer that I use quite a bit. And I will just spend a half a day. He'll open up his back room for me, and I'll look at all his samples, and I'll pick the ones that I think will work the best. And then I'll go through and change them. I'll go, okay, instead of a white base, we'll do the black base. And then instead of this sequin, we'll switch those sequins for this sequin. We'll switch, he has a booklet of, probably 100 different types of sequins you can use. And so I'll go through and switch out the colors. maybe I'll go, okay, there's a little bit too much empty space over here. So we're going to add the flowers that are here over here as well. Like I'll just start, going through and redesigning the fabric just the way I want. And then they will, he'll have a blanket made, like a sample blanket, they call it. And then we'll get a sample made. And, I'll decide which of our patterns is going to look best with that particular fabric, and then figure out the fabric placement. So you always want the placement to draw the eye up. You want it to be slimming. There's sort of criteria. The other criteria that's worth thinking about too, particularly when you care a lot about the price point, like we do at Hobby Horse, is, the waist. Sometimes I'll look at it and I'll go, this is how it's going to look best. But then when you look at how the placement on the fabric that won't be used, then it really increases the price of the top. So then I have to kind of go, okay, well, how else could we reconfigure this where it still is slimming? It still brings the eye up. It's, all of those components are still there, but maybe it uses more of the fabric. And so there's less waste and we can work with the price point. So there's some balance there, but yeah, all of that responsibility for sure falls on me, although I will say I get help. I frequently say, if you put me in a room with a blank canvas, like nothing's getting done. But if I can have some people to bounce some ideas off of, if I can, share that with someone else, then I'm going to be 10 times better. So I do usually partner with other people and go, okay, what do you think about this? What do you think? What if we move this here? And even just talking it through can be really, really helpful. Just kind of a long answer to your question.
No, you're fine. So that's kind of like the process I see. So when you're designing and then it goes through all of the production work, do you usually wait to release like one item? Or I know you guys do like the spring lookbooks and stuff. Do you wait until spring to launch like new lines? Or how do you end up grouping all of your new designs to be released?
Yeah, we usually do 2 like big releases. One, our spring release typically is like January, February timeframe. And then we have a smaller summer line that will release May, June. We don't typically do a fall one because by the time the fall hits, like the shows are pretty well wrapping up. If you are doing a championship show, you probably already know what you're going to wear. So, it just doesn't make sense to a fall release for us. Sometimes we'll release like a piece or 2. So it's like, here's something new for Christmas, particularly if it's something that isn't real fitted or could be a good gift item. But most of the time we do those 2 releases, and it's mainly for photography. So I can get studio anytime. That's easy. Studio shoots, no problem. Easy peasy. I just typically use my friends or myself. Pre-cancer, I used myself. Now I use my friends. But it's easy. It's the lifestyle shoots that are so much work. We're flying in Kirsty. We're typically flying in a model or 2 and or a stylist. Plus you're dealing, with all the horses. You have to have, there's so many people that go into putting together a lifestyle shoot. And it's so fun, by the way. Like, it's one of the highlights of my job. I absolutely love it. And all the women on these shoots are they're all just geniuses. Again, I just find people that are brilliant and let them be brilliant, getting out of their way. But it's a big production. So to do a bunch of little ones of those just isn't practical. So by grouping it where we can go, okay, it's a 4-hour shoot, we can get, everything done, then it's just more cost effective to do it that way.
Definitely. I know in the past you guys use Livewire.
Yeah, Livewire. Yeah, Megan Odell. Yeah, we've used her for a lot of years, but her life has sort of changed, and so we discussed not the last shoot, but the shoot before. We discussed that she thought it was time for her to step out, and so which so grateful for her. She is actually the one that started me thinking, hey, we could maybe style this street. Like maybe these jackets could be used for something than other just horse show. And when you can wear your jacket out and to the horse show, it's now so much less expensive, right? Cost per wear just went down quite a bit. And when it's more versatile, you're just more likely to want to wear it. So anyway, she's the one that helped me sort of envision how they could be styled other than just for horse show. So I will be forever grateful for her. And now we're using Paige Morgan on Instagram. Her handle's the Western Fashion page. And so she did our latest shoot that we did in California for the summer line that just released a few months ago. But yeah, I style all the horse show looks, and then Paige then styles the street styles, which include our more casual lines. Like we have the riding is my rehab tee, and that's the t-shirts and caps and stuff, plus all the Kime stuff. So she styles all of that, as well as the sort of NFR street looks with our jackets. And then I style the horse show looks.
Awesome.
I know NFR fashion is like wildly huge when it comes to that stuff. So have you guys made a point to have looks for that type of thing, or has that just kind of organically come about on its own?
No, we made that first shoot when Megan was like, hey, you can style this. I'm like, all right, I'll give you two shots. You do whatever you want, because I create a full schedule. Each shot gets 5 minutes. The photo shoots are lined out. And so I was like, okay, you have this model from here to here, this model from here to here, put them in whatever you want. And the looks ended up amazing. And so that's when I'm like, wait a minute. And Alicia Kurtz with Woolies, where Woolies is the Insta handle, we're friends. And so I was like, what do you think about this? And she totally saw the vision. And she took quite a few of our jackets to NFR a year or two after that first shoot. And they did really well. I had to drive out mid-FR with NFR with more jackets for her. So we do a concerted effort in that direction now, but it's just the same. I'm not designing for that. I'm designing the horse show jacket, and then we find other ways to style it. I'm not designing for NFR. We're still a horse show clothing company, but there's just other ways you can enjoy the clothing. The other thing I wanted to mention too, and we're talking about the models, just to be clear, when I mentioned we fly in models, they are real models, but they are real horse girls. Kelly, one of our models, she competes in cow horse. We have girls that rope. We have one that works on a ranch. Like, these are cowgirls. So they can be authentic when they're wearing the clothing, but they are absolutely skilled models. Modeling is not easy. It seems like it's just smiling next to your horse, but there's so much more that goes into it. So when we use a professional model, that's also a cowgirl, out of 100 shots, we can maybe use 98. So it's just economical, even though it is expensive flying them out. It still just makes sense because you get so much more out of the photography. And these girls are the loveliest, kindest. Like, you'll see a lot of repeat models in the different shoots. And it's because I just love them and I want to work with them some more because they're just wonderful people.
So do you guys actually have a booth at the NFR that you sell out of, or is it just?
No, we have dealers.
Okay.
Yeah, we have dealers that are NFR.
Okay. So on being the CEO of Hobby Horse, what has been your biggest challenge so far since taking over?
I would say COVID was actually probably the biggest challenge. So when I took over, it was a turnaround. So I had a 3-year sort of plan to get it to turn around. And we were just right on the cusp of that. And then COVID. And as you know, no horse shows. All the horse shows got canceled. Well, people aren't buying horse show clothing to not go to horse shows. So we actually had a couple months of negative revenue because people were returning things and not buying things. So, it was really hard. It was hard to just figure out what to do, but it was also hard just emotionally because, I just felt like I was failing. Anything I would try just wasn't working. And so it was kind of an emotional thing as well as a economical thing. And it's just uncharted territory. Like, what do you do?
Yeah.
We did get some PPP loans that helped us persevere. And then I just started thinking, okay, well, we started putting some focus on more casual wear, like the Kime stuff. But I was like, okay, well, not going to be able to sell things. We're not going to make money. So what do we do? So I just tried putting some good out. And we did some contests that people could do from their home. Like we had the horse show at home show where we had people doing showmanship with their dog. You know, one of the winners was on a work Zoom call in her full like horse show gear. So we just tried to put some fun out there. And being that most of the people in the industry were in the same boat where they, you know, horse trainers, horse judges, all of them were kind of out of work as well. So we were able to get some really fun. We did a try reining at home competition where you had to do a reining maneuver, but the only rule was you couldn't use a horse. So I got an actual NRHA judge to judge the videos. So we just had a lot of fun with it, and the response was huge. So did that transition into sales? No, but was it really fun? And it put some positivity out there. Yeah. So, you know, and then eventually recovered. Horse shows started up again. You know, our supply chain finally started, you know, that's also been a huge challenge, is just supply chain where, you know, it used to take a couple weeks to get zippers. Now it might take 6 months. And there's no textile industry within the US. So, you know, if you want a textile, you can't get it here. And then the supply chain becomes really hard. So, you know, you'll see us out of stock on some core things that, you know, there's just no way to figure it out. Like, you know, it used to be a 3-month lead time. And so we plan for 6. And then it's a year. You know, what do you do? It just, we're doing the best we can. And Holly's like so organized and so on top of these things in a way that I absolutely never could be. But it's still just unpredictable and really hard.
I think COVID threw, I mean, any industry just right under the bus, and trying to figure all of that out has been nearly impossible, I feel like. Logistically, that's what I do full time. So trying to get anything to anywhere is just impossible.
It's so hard. It's so hard. So yeah, I just started trying to do anything positive I could do. I did a blog post just on women in the industry that I really admired. Like I just tried to do anything positive I could, because I couldn't do anything productive. So it might as well be positive.
So on that note, like, technically COVID's still here, but when did you guys start seeing like the shows come back in your area? Or when did you start seeing everything kind of return? But not, I mean, it's not normal. I don't know if we'll ever have our normal again, but for you guys, when did you see the turnaround?
2021, early 21, it started ramping up, and we actually had a great 21. 22's been a little more of a struggle. Like I think there was some catch up in 21, and then 22 has been a little bit more challenging, and some of that supply chain issues really catching up where, you know, we knew we were going to sell out on stuff, but we just couldn't, you know, get it replaced as quickly as we would have wanted to. So 22's been, you know, a little challenging as well, but it's still, I mean, I'm just so grateful. We're out of 2020. The other thing that made 2020 really hard too is just as we started kind of coming out of COVID and we started having horse shows in, and, you know, as the end of the year approaches, I get diagnosed with cancer. So, you know, I go into chemo, I'm doing 6 months of chemo. And it hit me so hard. I had Hodgkin's lymphoma. So it's a blood cancer. So it's not like you can, you know, cut it out and then treat it with chemo as a precaution. Like the whole treatment is the chemo. So they hit it really hard. And I had all of the side effects. So, I mean, there were probably weeks I didn't even get out of bed. And it really affected my brain where I couldn't think, like I couldn't process. Like I could get a sentence or two out, or I could follow a sentence or two, but that's about it. So any type of problem solving, my brain just couldn't do it. It was the weirdest feeling. So, you know, I still remember when we were filing for the second PPP, I have everything ready, but it's supposed to, the application's supposed to release before I go into chemo, but it doesn't. I go get my next treatment, and now my brain, my husband had to do it because I could not. I just stare at the screen and I just, it was so hard. So, I mean, that definitely compounded things for us in 2020 and made it a lot harder, having me pretty much out of commission most of the year. We did our photo shoot in October for the spring, and then I started chemo right after that. And then I finished chemo right before our summer shoot in April. But because we'd gotten so far, we'd actually gotten really far ahead in 2020. Everything we'd planned to release in 2020 in the later half, we had just moved to spring. So, you know, our design process was all really far ahead. Like right now, I'm actually already working on the summer 23 line. I just ordered the sample blankets for summer 23. So everything's much more ahead than it ever was. So that's kind of was the saving grace with the cancer. So just when I finished treatment, then we had our April shoot. So it was like my treatment was sandwiched between two photo shoots, which was, I wouldn't have it any other way. Those are my favorite. And I get to be surrounded by all of these brilliant women. So it was just kind of, it felt right.
I that C word is just awful, cancer. I think everyone has had some bout with it at some point in their life with their family or, you know, friends. Mm-hmm. How did your immediate support system help? Did they assist you? Your husband, you said, helped you with the loan process, but was everyone pretty much supportive and just helping you through all of it with the business end and personal life, I'm assuming?
Absolutely. Like, forgive me if I tear up a smoodle. Like, I had so much support, and so much so my husband was huge. He took care of me like unbelievably. I had my best friend, Kim. I mentioned that we worked together on Kinston. I would talk to her every day. She would have like, this is your daily check. And we had that friendship where it could just be totally real. Like there wasn't any need to like fake it with her. And she was there for me the whole time. Holly stepped in and did so much. Like I leaned on her like crazy. A lot of things that absolutely were my job, I should be doing it. I just couldn't do it. And she didn't even hesitate. Sometimes I wouldn't even ask, she'd just do it. So, I mean, that was huge. So Chris Weaver with Bob Saddles, we call each other chemo buddies. We both had stage 2 Hodgkin's lymphoma, and we started chemo. I started on a Wednesday. He started on a Friday. And so he was someone that I kind of went through it with. We were in different states. He's in Arizona, I was in California. But we'd talk almost every week and just check in and talk about, you know, our bodies definitely responded really, really differently, but still having someone that understood. And, you know, we're both running these businesses and trying to like do all the things while trying to survive. And so it was so awesome to feel like we had each other's back through that process as well. But I mean, I can't even list all the different amazingly kind things that people did. My husband's like, hey, did you order a hat? I'm like, no. Like, where would I wear this hat to? And Greeley Hatworks, Trent designed me this pink, amazing, fabulous hat. And then everyone at Greeley signed the box and had all these beautiful words. So just, you know, Kime sent me this big, beautiful succulent arrangement, which is still in our living room. Just the whole industry was, every text, every Facebook message, every Insta DM, like they all mattered. And they all gave me energy and helped me persevere through the process. One of the other things I did was, since I had sandwiched my treatment between photo shoots, after we did the official Hobby Horse photo shoot, Kirsty stuck around and did a shoot just for me, because I wanted pictures looking like myself with, you know, I always had long straight hair. Now it's like I have the chemo curls, but we knew it was going to fall out. And so I wanted pictures where I looked like me, that I could look back on it. And I knew Pickles, my horse, was in Arizona. I was in California. I knew I wasn't going to get to see him. I wanted pictures. We ended up calling them my superhero pics. And I had this awesome blazer with these cool shoulders, and I like loaded up the jewelry, so it was like superhero cuffs. And I just took all these over the top photos with me and Pickles, with Kirsty as the photographer, and they turned out so awesome. And so that was really wonderful too, to sort of have that in my hand and have those pictures and go, okay, I don't feel strong now, but that is me. This isn't me right now. Going through, in the middle of the hardest times, feeling so sick and weak and, can't even think properly. I had those visuals of like, no, that's who I am. That's who God created me to be. This is just what I'm going through right now. This isn't who I am. So that was really awesome. And then, my faith and my relationship with Christ. And I think, that made a really big difference, feeling like I wasn't in this alone. He saw me, he felt me. And I early on, I had people praying for me for immediate, like complete healing. And I just knew that wasn't what he was doing. I don't know why, but I just knew I was, immediate miraculous healing wasn't for me. Not that God couldn't do that, because he can, but I just knew he wasn't, that there was something for me to learn and grow in that process. So I knew I had to go through it, but that also gave me this like, okay, so he sees me, he knows I'm going through this. I'm not by myself here. I know that I'm going to get through it, and I just need to do what I can, and just give myself a lot of grace for not showing up to things, not getting things done, in the middle of that treatment. I'm typically my harshest critic. So, I'll feel guilty for not getting things done. And so I just had to learn to be like, nope, this is where I'm at right now. It's just not getting done. So yeah, that's one lesson, but there's like a million I could go on and on. It's definitely been a very life-changing experience.
I was going to say, what is the biggest, like, maybe mental shift that all of that taught you or changed in your perspective about life? Was there anything that sticks out the most?
Yeah, I would say I kind of sweat the small stuff a little bit less. And I probably strive less for perfection and more for enough, if that makes sense. Where I'm not going, hey, this has to be absolutely perfect. No, it just has to be enough. It has to serve the purpose. And if it's not perfection, that's okay. I'm not, it's not the end of the world. There's so many things that are more important than striving for perfection, which, as you know, not obtainable anyway. And then I think I just appreciate a bit more than I did. I always loved showing horses, and I always had gratitude for, there's just not that many people in the world that, when you say to them as a kid, what do you want to do? I want to be a professional football player. I want to, I want to do all these different things. I always said, well, I want to show horses. And here I am getting to show horses. Like, I already had gratitude around it, but I think I have less, like, I still want to go and win. And I've got this futurity horse, and I plan on, giving it what I got. But at the same time, like, if it doesn't go well, it doesn't go well. I'm going to do the best I can, and that doesn't change. But the fact that I'm getting to do it, that's enough.
I would love for you to speak on where you think the horse show fashion industry is going to go next. Trends are like a major thing in the show pen. So where's it going to head from here, in your opinion?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I really like being on the cutting edge of fashion. Like, I like to push the envelope, but that's not the hobby horse customer in general. So I want to be out there ahead, and I have to really rein myself in. Like, no, like, when it's going to work for hobby horse is a year or two after that cutting edge. So I spend a lot of time trying not to be cutting edge, because we'll just sit on it. If it's hobby horse buyers aren't typically your early adopters. So, then I'm holding the inventory too long, and, inventory ties up your cash. And anyway, numbers, math, whatever. That's not fun. So I try not to be too cutting edge, but I do feel like, there's that fluctuation where it goes back and forth between like the over the top, super sparkly, really detailed and bespoke jackets to like, okay, I'm just going to wear a plain black shirt. And it seems like it just kind of every decade or so, maybe less, it goes back and forth between those two. And I think we're in this space right now that's like a middle ground where you're still seeing some crystal embellishments, but maybe it's just really detailed on the collar or on the edge of the sleeve. I personally don't like putting a lot on cuffs because I feel like it draws attention to your hand, which you don't want attention on your hand. So I think it looks beautiful, but I personally don't design that direction because it's not about looking beautiful. While you do want to look beautiful, it's also about like being ready to win. And so I want to design clothing that's going to help people do that. And I feel like really a lot of stuff around the cuff is harder. I don't want the judge looking at every movement my hand makes, regardless of what event I'm in. Sorry, tangent. But I think that's what we're looking at right now is that kind of in between where it's not your plain black shirt, but it's also not the, really over the top, super high end custom jackets. I think it's going to be in that middle where it's like a really fitted, beautiful top, maybe in a solid color. But then you see a lot of that detail, but just on the collar or just down the shoulder of the sleeve, or, maybe down the lapel, whatever, in specific areas, where you still have that custom element, but it's not as, it's not the entire jacket.
It always seems like no matter what, if it's very plain or very sparkly and embellished or whatever, your fit is always like the key piece that makes or breaks an outfit.
Yeah, absolutely. I do appreciate about that with Hobby Horse because, a lot of thought has gone into the actual pattern making. But for me, it's all about the fabric. Like I want to pick fabrics that are really stretchy. So like we have the taffy blouse. It's one of my favorite ones. It's one I designed. So, I might be the tiniest bit partial, but it's a stretch taffeta. So it doesn't look like it's stretchy. It just looks like it's custom made for you. But in reality, it's actually really stretchy. So I think tops like that, to your point, it looks like it was just custom made, but it's actually just really stretchy fabric that would fit most people if you get it in the right size. So that's kind of what I aim for, because those, even just a basic top, to your point, that's really custom and fitted, that's going to be really expensive. So I want to try to provide that look without the custom cost or wait time.
Yeah, I love that. That's amazing.
So we just have a few minutes left. I guess maybe my last question would be, what's one thing, maybe a mentor or a friend or just somebody that you look up to in the industry? What's one thing that maybe they've told you that you've just taken with you your entire career in the industry?
I think one of the things that really sticks out to me is not to be afraid of failure. And like I try to take small bets. Not like on a slot machine, but when I'm making moves, when I'm, trying something new, and I'm not going to be afraid to fail at it. And if I fail at it, then I learn something and I try something else. So I might not, I don't want to make giant bets where if I fail at it, I lose my lunch, but I want to take small bets that I can go, okay, let's see if this works. And if it does, then I can lean in. And if it doesn't, then that's okay. It's fine. It's just part of learning. It's part of growing. And it's not personal. I tried something and it didn't work. On to the next. And I think people that show horses learn that quickly because nobody goes in and wins every time they compete. So yeah, you're going to fail here and there, probably more times than you win. I actually wrote a blog post on being a good non-winner because it doesn't matter who you are. There's a class of 100 horses. Only one horse is winning. The other 99 have to figure out how to do not winning well. So I think that is really key, is to just not be afraid to fail. Just fail small, fail at that proportion of where you're at, and just don't, if you're a green as grass reiner, maybe don't go to the Derby and enter all up in all the levels, but don't be afraid to go enter in that green as grass class and go for it. Learn something from it and, work your way up. But don't be afraid to try, because if you don't try, you don't know. Maybe you'd be brilliant at it. maybe it would be a wild, huge success, and you just won't know if you don't give it a go. So, yeah, take the risk, I guess, is probably that advice.
Perfect. So where can everyone find you? We'll have all the links in the bottom, but where would you like to direct people to follow you on social media and find you on your website?
Yeah, so I personally love Instagram. So if you want to get me personally, it's my Instagram feed at Kristin Titov. And then, we have Hobby Horse Inc., both on Facebook and Instagram. Sarah and I split that. So sometimes it's me, or sometimes it's Sarah. And then I'm on TikTok as well for fun. I don't really do a lot of content, but I love it. And Hobby Horse, Sarah does the Instagram, does the TikTok for Hobby Horse too. She's very creative and super fun, and she does a really good job at it.
All right, that'll be your class. Bring them in and line them up.